came for lunch. How are you, everybody? Of course you know the mayor. And fire away.
Mr. Vice President, what makes you so confident that you can beat Donald Trump like a drum when you're having a difficult time emerging as a clear frontrunner in your own party?
Well, I don't think that either statement, I think the first statement is correct, and the second statement, I don't understand what you're talking about. I am the clear front runner in the party. I'm ahead on the national average of all the polls by 7-8%. And but it's a long way to go, a long way to go. And the other reason is that, look, whomever is the nominee, it's not going to be enough just to beat Donald Trump. You've got to be able to win in states like this. You've got to be able to be value added to make sure we pick up Senate seats and House seats. And so in every one of these polls in these states that I find myself, and again, I'm not counting on the polls, but the fact is that I'm ahead in every one of the toss-up states by a substantial margin in most places. So yes.
Mr. Vice President, part of your lead in the polls is due to your significant support from black voters. Explain how it is that you have such a lead with black voters and why they trust you to be the nominee and to be the next president.
Well, I don't want to speak to why they trust me. I can tell you why I trust them. It's my whole career from the time I was a kid, not career, when I was in high school, straight through, I've been engaged with the community in my state. My state is the 8th largest black population in the country. Almost 20% of the state is African American. And I have been both just personal friends with. I was the only guy that worked in the East Side, or the only white boy who worked over there for real. There were, with 13 other lifeguards, I became close friends with all those folks. Back in the day in Delaware, when we were still have segregated movie theaters and things, I'm not making myself out to be some great sheik in the civil rights movement, but I spent a lot of time in African American churches. A lot of my support has come from the church, the AME church in particular in Delaware. That's what I've done my whole life. And when I got started in public life, I think the biggest boost I got was my association with Delaware State University, a historic black university. It's just, and I find that I think that I've always been comfortable in the community, and I think that the community's always been comfortable with me.
Mr. Vice President, I cover rural Georgia. Can you give me one rural issue that you find, you've got a plan, but the top issue, and then how would you pay for that plan?
Well, there's no one, for example, it's critically important in rural Georgia or rural America that we have high-speed broadband, and because it fundamentally affects everything that's able to be done. The ability to attract new businesses, the ability to be able to have your children be on the same page in terms of being able to get information online quickly, the ability for farmers to be able to decide when to sell, when not to sell. I think that's critically important. Secondly, I think rural America makes up 20% of the population, but it has been left behind in so many ways, including the education system, as well as, that's why I think there's a significant need to increase the funding for Title I programs, to triple that, to make sure, look, one thing we know is that no matter what the background of a child, the earlier they start, the better off they are. So if you want to make sure they're going to be able to have access to education post-high school, start them earlier and have them in programs that really matter. Teachers that in fact are getting paid the same as teachers, as other competitors around the country. And so there's a whole lot of things that relate to that, but also the environment overall. The farming community will be the first community in the world to have net zero emissions, because we're going to be able to work in a way that we can pay farmers to sequester carbon. And but there's a whole range of issues. But I think right off the bat, making sure, look, this place is dedicated to generating growth in the economy. And one of the things you find out, and Mayor's forgotten more about this than most people know, is that when a company decides they want to locate somewhere, the first thing they ask is, what's my access to a highway? What's my access? Do I have access to broadband? Do I have access to water? Do I have access to help? And so rural communities are being left behind. And that's the overall plan. I'm not going to take all the time to go into, but there's no one thing. But I think access to high tech, access to education, and physical access to the region makes a big difference.
Mr. Vice President, how much you've been able to monitor the impeachment hearings on the Hill and some of your takeaways, but I also want to ask you specifically about something Fiona Hill testified to this morning, which is that the idea that Ukraine was the one that meddled in our election is advancing a Russian narrative from Vladimir Putin. Are House Republicans playing into Vladimir Putin's hand?
I think the President of the United States has not only played into, but he's been he has given Vladimir Putin a platform that he never ever would have had. He has his embrace of Putin I find to be not only repugnant but dangerous. And I think the Republicans, it used to be a party that thought about the need and concern about Russia's and Russian expansion. I'm not talking about the Soviet Union, I'm talking about Russia. This president of Russia now is trying to literally destroy NATO, literally break it up. And he's having some little success so far because we are embracing him in ways that are ridiculous. And what happened here is, I think, the biggest benefactor of the president's engagement in trying to get a foreign country to directly engage in our elections, in this case Ukraine, has been a gigantic win for Vladimir Putin. Hill talks about it in terms of the effect on Russia and what it gives them a get-out-of-jail-free card, basically. But it goes well beyond that. Look what the president has done. There's been an absolute parade of people before the United States House of Representatives, the committee doing the investigation, that have made it overwhelmingly clear this president violated his oath, that he invited a country in to try to impact on our election, number one. Number two, beyond that, he's done something I've not seen or heard of a president doing, and that is he's intimidating witnesses. You have an incredibly talented ambassador who in fact said in testimony that she is afraid. She feels threatened by the president. You have a war hero, a lieutenant colonel, who now has to have protection for his family at home. This is disgraceful, what the president is doing.
Mr. Vice President, said that she issued a stern warning about 2020 and the Russians and them interfering in elections. She warned that they would do it again. How confident are you that these elections are going to be sound? What needs to be done to make sure they are? And do you think that your campaign has or will be targeted?
I know it has. I mean, look, the only three things I know very well from the last 3 weeks. One, the president doesn't want me to be the nominee. Number two, that Vladimir Putin doesn't want me to be president. And number three, Kim Jong-un thinks I should be beaten with like a rabid dog with a stick. You know, I mean, look, folks, this is bizarre what's going on here. It's absolutely bizarre. And you have a circumstance where this president is embracing people who are anathema to everything we stand for. Everything we stand for. And I just find it almost incomprehensible that he would do this and indict himself in public the way he has.
Can I ask Mr. question about this meeting?
Do you worry that Russians will meddle again?
Oh, I know they're meddling. Look, you even had Facebook brought down, the hundreds of bots or thousands, whatever they were, going after me. True, absolute, flat-out lies. They're already involved in that, number one. And number two, we need to secure our electoral process. We should have paper ballot. The federal government should be doing what we did before when there was a problem with voting machines. We said, states, you need this help. We, the federal government, will help you pay for it. There should be a paper ballot across the board in every single electoral district. We should be engaging in dealing with cybersecurity in ways that I don't have any indication we are now. This is basically what, you know, when the president said some time ago, he said, of course I'd invite, of course I'd take information from foreign countries. Then he realized that was violating the constitutional oath, and he said, well, no, I'm not sure I would. This is ridiculous. They are engaging in our elections now. They are trying to change the whole structure of our elections. They are engaged in trying to actually manipulate who's on the ballot and who is registered to vote. So we ought to just face it. This is ridiculous. And I mean, the fact that we even asked the question anymore, the fact that anyone from Fox News would wonder whether this was true. It's unequivocal. They, in fact, are engaging in trying to affect our sovereignty, and they continue to do it now.
Can I ask you real quick about this?
About the threat of domestic election interference. Stacey Abrams is just down the road today trying to talk to Georgia voters whose votes may be purged heading into the next election. How concerned are you about the threat of voter suppression domestically and the fight between voter suppression and voter turnout headed into next year?
Well, by the way, I'm very concerned about it. That's why when we were in office, the president and I, we in fact had the Justice Department going after those 35 states that try to make it more difficult for people to vote, purging people from the rolls. That it makes no rational sense what they're doing. If I'm president of the United States, there will be a Justice Department will have one focus as it relates to this, going after those states. And we have to reinstate the Voting Rights Act. We have to, pre-clearance should be back. Look, this is, Stacey would be the governor right now were it not for voter suppression. Right this minute.
On this meeting you're having with...
Pardon me?
Are you concerned about voter suppression possibly keeping you from becoming president?
Well, sure. I'm concerned about it just as a matter of, you know, American principles and ethics. I mean, it's just totally inappropriate. It's Jim Crow under a different name.
This meeting with the mayors.
I'm wondering if you have a comment on this report and court filing out of Arkansas that your son Hunter just made you a grandfather again.
No, that's a private matter. I have no comment.
Mr. Vice President,
But only you would ask that.
On your meeting
You're a
with the
good man.
mayors.
You're a good man.
Thank you guys. This is all
Classy.
the time we have.
Mr. Vice President, in just the last several weeks, two Democrats have, one has jumped into the race, Deval Patrick, another one, Bloomberg, has said, both of them are saying that you may not be the frontrunner, you're lagging a little bit in the polls, and that your message may not be.
I'm not lagging in the polls. Let's get that straight. If you look at the average of the polls, I'm not lagging in the polls. But go ahead.
But that's what they're claiming. That's why they are interested.
I welcome them into the race.
Thank you,
Is that what this
I
meeting with the
welcome
mayors
them.
is about?
No, I know. I really mean it. You know, they're both competent people. Come on in. Come on in. The water's warm.
By meeting with the mayors?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Your debate performance last night convinced them that they shouldn't jump in?
Did I say that, you say?
No. Did your debate performance last night convince them? Do you think it convinced them and potentially other voters who have that hesitancy?
Well, you know, I think that that convinced them that I'm the most qualified person to be Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America. That's what I think. And but that's for other people to decide. That's not for me to decide. Look, there's two things the next president's going to have to do. They're going to inherit a divided nation. They have to know how to pull it together. I found it fascinating. I'm the only one to talk about uniting the country. And up to now, I've been told by everyone else that's naive. Remember? Every one of the people on stage, that's naive to unite. You have to unite this country. I've done it. I will do it again, number one. Number two, you also have to be able to go out there to get big things done, which all of us have big plans. You have to do what LBJ did and what Franklin Roosevelt did. You had to bring along significant majorities to be able to get these things done in the House and the Senate. Now tell me who you think can get more votes for people running for local office in the states we have to win, from North Carolina to Georgia and go down the line, than me. I may be wrong, but speaking of the polls, that's what they all show.
What about New Hampshire and Iowa?
New Hampshire and Iowa are important, and I plan on winning New Hampshire, and I plan on winning in Iowa. Look, you talk about polls. There have been 4 or 5 polls. The same weekend the poll came out that Pete, and he's a good guy, was up to 25 points. The CBS poll put me in front. So come on. I mean, look. I'm not running because of the polls. I'm running because I think we have an enormous opportunity, if we get Donald Trump out of the way, to fundamentally take back this country and grow it in a way that we have not had the chance to do before. Because people now know. I found it fascinating. Some people talking about all the experience on the stage and nothing well has gotten done, etc. I don't know. I thought Barack and I did a pretty good job. And I think that's the platform on which to build these things. I think we're so ready. The country's so ready. Thank you very much.